Well, I was going to do a camping trip for New Year's, and that's just not going to happen because it's going to be frigid. Possibilities of it being -20 wind chills, and I just didn't have the gear ready for that. So, not going to do the camping trip for New Year's. So instead, I'm going to do a 2017 kind of year in review video. Kind of, not really, but sort of. So this is my top 10 moments or trips from 2017. So the year started at Shenandoah National Park on Skyline Drive, and I'm so glad I did that because I always like to try to make it to a national park, especially a new national park for me, every year. And if I didn't go to Shenandoah in January, I wouldn't have made it there all year. It just didn't work out that way. But it was really cool to see Shenandoah, to see Skyline Drive. I got the hike up to the top of Hawksbill, which is the highest point in Shenandoah, so that was pretty cool. I was gonna do a backpacking trip, but when I arrived at the main gate in Front Royal, or I should say the north gate in Front Royal, spoke to a ranger there, and she told me that they were expecting snow, and that if I went in and backpacked, I may not get back out, which wound up being the case. So the second day I was there, the north section of Skyline Drive that I would have been backpacking in was closed, so I would have been stuck in there. So the third day I was there, the entire Skyline Drive was closed. So that would have been bad. I would have been stuck up in the mountains, and who knows when that opened up. As a bonus of that trip, I did get to go to Mont Alto, which is the oldest state park in Pennsylvania, and that was on my list of places to see, so that was pretty cool. Next up has to be just this moment at Stokes State Forest in New Jersey. It was a foggy, miserable day around Scranton, Pennsylvania, where I'm from, and drove over to New Jersey, went to Stokes, and the sun was out, it was beautiful, and on our way back around the little pond, the little lake up there, turned and saw fog just rolling in over this mountain range, over this ridge. That was pretty cool. Just that, the hike itself was cool, but just that moment was, that stuck out for 2017. Next up would have to be the winter backpacking trip in Painter Swamp in the Delaware State Forest in February. It was supposed to get down into like the high 20s, and it dropped down to, from what we could tell, about 19. It may have been colder than that. It was freezing. We got set up, got a fire going, just kind of hung out, and by the time we woke up in the morning, it was 19 degrees. Boots were frozen. It was cold, but it was a great time. The kicker to that trip was by the time I got home, it was 61. So it was a crazy day. The hike back from the camp back to the car was rough because it started warming up so fast, and we were layered up for colder temperatures, and everything started melting. It was hard to walk in. The chest strap on my backpack snapped, so my backpack was sliding around a little bit. It was rough, but it was a good trip. I liked it a lot. My white whale for the past couple years has been Slide Mountain in the Catskills. I've been trying to get up there. I really wanted to backpack up there and then spend the night, maybe hiking between Slide Mountain and Cornell, or doing a whole like a multi-day trip up there. Every time in the past few years I tried to get up there, the weather turned and I couldn't make it, or something else had happened. So finally this year I was able to get up there, get to Slide Mountain, stay overnight. I got to hike up there with my nephew, which was cool. We hiked over to the top of Slide, went down to below the 3,500 foot mark where you can camp. We found ourselves a camp, and just kind of relaxed and spent the night up there, and then hiked our way back in the morning. Really cool trip. Had this crazy butterfly land on my head as soon as we got up to the peak. Stayed on my head for like 5 minutes. Beautiful trip. I definitely want to do that again. That was a lot of fun. So one of my goals is to visit all the Pennsylvania state parks, and one of the little ones that I've missed on my trips out to the Pennsylvania wilds was Sizersville State Park. I did an overnight there, so it was like a 4-hour drive to get out to this little park just to spend the night. but it was gorgeous. I had my hammock set up right on the creek, did a little bit of hiking. So it sits right on the border. It's actually surrounded by the Elk State Forest. So I hiked up into the state forest that morning and went up this little overlook. It was just a really cool little park, and wasn't a lot of people there, so that made it nice. And just a really cool trip. Really nice to see these little smaller, older state parks that just have a look and feel to them that you don't get in some of the bigger ones. One of the other places I've always wanted to go is the Allegheny National Forest. I've driven through there a few years ago on my trip to Erie, in Lake Erie, and up that way. I drove back through and I came through Allegheny, and I kind of checked it out, but didn't have a lot of time to stop. This year I was able to kayak camp in the Allegheny Reservoir. Had planned to stay there for 5 days and only made it for 2 because the weather was horrible. It rained so hard, and I decided to bail. I was going to stay in a hotel the second night and then come back out. There was like this anniversary thing going on for the Zippo Museum, and there was another event going on in town, and all the hotel rooms were booked. So I just cut the trip short, but beautiful. The one night I got to kayak out at sunset and camp, it was just beautiful. So another one of my favorite trips, favorite moments, was this trip in July 17th, out to Francis C. Walter Reservoir, and it was just super foggy, and the reservoir just had this really cool look about it. And as we got out in the water, you could see that the fog was just in half of the reservoir. So there was almost like this cut line where it was fog on the right and sunny on the left. It was really, really surreal almost. Really cool trip. A lot of fun to kayak in. Really enjoyed myself that day. Another really cool trip was back up in the Catskills. A lot of cool things up there. But there's a lake up there called Alder Lake. It's in the Balsam Lake Mountain Wild Forest. And I went up there just to kind of scout it out for camping, because there are primitive campsites around this lake. I got up there, kind of took my time. Didn't think I was going to have enough daylight to do much else, but I decided to kind of push it. Drove the like 15 minutes or so over to the Fire Tower Trail and hiked up to the Balsam Lake Mountain Fire Tower. Beautiful spot up there. Didn't realize the climb was going to be as much as it was. Took me up above 3,500 feet. There was a little bit of snow up on top of the mountain, and you're kind of in that. It's not really an alpine zone, but it's like a Catskill alpine. Really cool. Some of the things that don't come through in video are the scents and the smells that you get from being outdoors. Made it about 3/4 of the way up the tower, and there was so much ice on the steps, and I was up there by myself, and it was getting dark, and I did not want to fall off of a fire tower, so I only went about 3/4 of the way up. But the view from up there is beautiful. Can't wait to get back up there either. Another one of the smaller state parks I've wanted to get to, but I never had the chance until this year, was Little Pine State Park, and it's just on the edge of the Pennsylvania Wilds. I guess it's still technically part of the Wilds, but it's not listed as such, but it's right on the edge of it. Really cool night. It was clear, had this moon that was setting through the pine trees. The campground was surrounded in white pines, and there weren't many people out. I think there's maybe 2 other people that were camping, but nobody in the section I was in, so I kind of had that all to myself. And got a lot of cool history of the park and the area from one of the rangers. And the second day I was there, I hiked this trail that the ranger had kind of told me, if you're going to do anything in the park, you want to do this. And got to hike up amongst these really cool views of these really, really cool rock formations. And just a beautiful place. Another spot that I want to get back out to and check out. Another, I wouldn't say a bucket list item, but something that I've wanted to do And didn't realize until I started getting ready for this trip that I hadn't ever done a solo backpacking trip. I had gone to state parks where I was the only person there, you know, and that's kind of solo camping, but your car is right there, you know. I've solo kayak camped out on islands out in down in Florida, so I've kind of had experience being out in the wilderness by myself, but this was the first time I had hiked into somewhere as a backpacking trip, and I did it on Christmas Eve into Christmas morning, knowing that there was a snowstorm coming, and I couldn't have been more excited to do it. Really cool setting up my camp right along the Bushkill Creek, right by the water. It's probably 100 feet from the water, 150 feet from the edge of the water. It was just beautiful. Looking forward, now that was out in the Delaware State Forest, and looking forward to getting back out there and doing either another solo or you know, going out with some other people and doing another backpacking trip. So that was my top 10, but I'm gonna throw in a bonus because there was one other hiking trip that I took towards the end of the year that really surprised me, and that was Mount Mincy. It's in the Delaware Water Gap National Recreation Area. I had hiked on the other side, on the Mount Tammany side in New Jersey many times, but the Pennsylvania side on Mount Mincy I'd never been to. I honestly didn't even know it was there. I went out there a few weeks ago and hiked up to the overlook that looks out at Mount Tammany, and it goes along the Appalachian Trail, and I've been to some parts of the Appalachian Trail that there's not a lot to see, and it's just kind of a footpath and you just kind of trudge through the woods. This was an absolutely gorgeous hike, and one that I will definitely be going back to do. That's my bonus moment from 2017. Really looking forward to 2018. Seeing what new places I can go to and what new adventures I can have. I want to thank all my subscribers, to everybody who's subscribed this past year and before. You guys are the reason why I do these videos. I really appreciate you guys clicking that subscribe button, clicking that like button, and watching the videos. So thanks for a great 2017, and I will see you guys in 2018. Happy New Year.